So whenever you're ready, we're ready?
Okay.
Yes.
Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me down with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. I rise, bringing the gifts, dream and the hope of the slave. I rise.
Poem. That was lovely.
Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone to the first annual National Girlfriends Networking Day. We're very excited to June 4th. We're asking women, young women, and women of building their connections. Before we start, I want to put something in perspective. Women have only been voting in our country for less than a century. We've only been in the workforce for less than half a century. So what it is to be a woman in the working world is still undefined. And that's something in the next 50 years we all need to work together to shape. The key word for us for the next 50 years is control. That women need to be in control, and they need to control their finances and be economically empowered. And that we need to get more women into positions of control. And that's something that the new agenda, and we hope you will join us, is fighting to achieve, to get women into leadership in all different sectors. To understand where our battle is. Men have been in the working world for centuries, and they have natural networks almost as a birthright as they enter the workforce. But for women, it's something that we still need to learn to do. It's something that we don't necessarily think we deserve, but our message is you deserve what you need. And we want you to think of networking in a multidimensional way. Not just a traditional mentor and mentee relationship, but in building your network. Think of yourself as a brand. And the value of your brand is the value of your connections and who you know. And I can tell you from my experience of 20 years in finance, that almost every job I got was through a recommendation of a friend, a peer, a colleague. So our message to the young college women listening to us today and who are part of our panel is it starts in high school, it starts in college, on your team, in your club, in your sorority, in your dorm. These are connections that you will build in your career and that will help you throughout. The other message, which is perhaps counterintuitive, is networking should be fun. You should be doing things that you enjoy. And I'm not bringing up gender stereotypes because my nieces in their 20s would say you can't do that, Auntie Amy, but Yes, shopping. Yes, getting your nails done with your girlfriends. Yes, going out for cocktails. All the things we enjoy. Going to the Yankees, going to the Knicks, going to whoever. Whatever you enjoy doing with your friends, you want to be. And that is how you will build your connections that are going to last you throughout your career. Now, it's important to us as we launch this national initiative. We'd like to hear from you. On our page, we'd like you to live chat, to tweet using hashtag NGNDay about who you are connecting with today. Is it a mentor? Is it a mentee? Is it a peer? Tell us what you're doing. And then we're going to ask you at the end as well to ask us questions, myself and the panelists, that you have as what you hear today. Because we're going to be talking about different career paths. Because here's another thing, as women, there is no traditional career paths for women. We enter and re-enter the workforce in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s because of divorce, because our spouse was laid off, for a whole potpourri of reasons. We get in and out of the workforce. We have a lot of on and off ramps in our careers. And so we want you to be thoughtful today about what your career path is, but understand from learning from different people that it doesn't always have to be from A to Z for women. That because we're so new to the workforce, it's still yet undefined. But we are going to start the path today of defining ourselves and working together across the country to get more women into leadership in the pipeline of every career field and support one another on the way up. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel, and then they're each going to take some time to talk to you about their career path, and Rosemary is going to talk to you a little bit about a model for how corporations can set up women's groups to empower their own women. So first, sitting to my right is Gretchen Carlson, and Gretchen is going to start off first, and this is Jeanette Perez-Rosello, Liz Naganzi, and Rosemary Leonard. And then we're going to be hearing from one of our pioneer mentees, Emily Baxter. So first I'm going to start off with Gretchen and turn the tables, because Gretchen has been so kind to really support the work of the New Agenda and have us on her show, Fox and Friends. And Gretchen needs no introduction for anybody here watching. She is the co-anchor of Fox and Friends and has a tremendous career. You can read all about her on our website bio. But Gretchen, we'd love to hear from you about your career path.
Thank you so much, Amy. I think I'll just start with the fact that I've always been a huge believer in helping other women. And so from the beginning of my career in television, I always was the one who spent time with the intern, letting her come out with me on stories, and boys too, young girls, young boys. But I just know how important it is, and I've done that for the last 20 years, and that's why I wanted to be a part of this organization. My daughter just completed 3rd grade, and in their packet they had to say what they hoped for their future, and I was happy and sad at the same time to see that more than half of the 40 girls said they wanted to be an actress. I don't know if that's just an age thing. Luckily, my daughter said veterinarian. But there was nowhere on the list President of the United States, and that really bummed me out. Maybe that changes as they get a little bit older. My path is one of a lot of different interweaving paths, which I'm sure you'll hear from the other. Is no set career path. Violinist. I burned out when I was 17. I decided to focus on my academics. I was valedictorian in my high school class. I went on to Stanford University, graduated with honors, and studied at Oxford University at Well. I was going to be a lawyer. I got sidetracked, entered the Miss America pageant. 50% of the points were talent. Then I could use my violin upbringing and make my parents happy. I was lucky enough to win that, and that's how I got into television. The very first job I applied for in Richmond, Virginia, I sent to the male news director my tape, and he said, "Oh, my wife doesn't even let me watch the Miss America pageant. I'm not going to like you at all. Don't bother sending the tape." I sent it anyway and said, "We'll see what you think when you get it." And first job when he left and a woman news director came, political reporter. I had no idea what I was doing, and covering politics. This was a huge break for me, who believed in me as my boss. I went on from Richmond to Cincinnati, then to Cleveland. I was part of the first 2 female primetime newscasts that was ever tried in the country. And while that was fantastic, it didn't work. And I was fired. So then I was left without a job, just recently married, and the general manager said to me at the time, "You'll be fine because now you're married." 1998.
Wow.
So I spent the next year without having a position. Unfortunately, in television, you can't just move up to the 30th floor from the 5th floor for your next promotion or new job. You have to move cities. But through networking, the woman who was my boss in Cleveland eventually left that job. She went to Dallas, and through networking, because I stayed close with her, she hired me. She worked for NBC in Dallas, and I ended up moving for a year. From there, I went to work for CBS here in New York, and here in New York. So for me, male bosses along the way has made a huge difference, and that's why I believe it's so important to be a good role model for my children and for all young people out there, and that's why I wanted to be a part of this program.
Thank you, Gretchen. I want to pick up on one thing that you said, which is the importance of failing. That so much, when I speak up to college campuses to young women, they're so concerned about perfection. And I'm glad that we're brave enough to talk about that. I failed too in my career. And my greatest successes, just like Gretchen, came after failing. But I think we need to tell young women and women of all ages, it's okay to take risks and fail. In fact, it's absolutely necessary to take risks and fail. Okay, so next, Jeanette. Jeanette is the assistant professor of radiology at Harvard Medical School and a staff pediatric radiologist at Boston Children's Hospital. So we would love to hear about your path as well.
Well, my path is a little more traditional. Ever since I was a little girl, I knew I wanted to study medicine and be a doctor. That's all I wanted to do. So that path is very well established. What I learned very quickly was that to get there, other people had to help me, and I had to ask for help along the way. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, so English is my second language. And when I arrived in college at 17, reading and writing were extremely difficult for me to do it in English. So I had to make use of my friends, my network, my roommate to proofread my papers, go to tutors, go to my professors' open hours, and go to my mentor. And my mentor actually told me, Jeanette, you should work for a work study in the admissions office. That way you read a lot of essays, and that way you can stand up in a group of parents that are visiting and students and speak in front of them. And I thought, this is outside my path. My path is medicine. I should be working with a professor in a lab. And she said, no, these are 2 skills that would work for anything you ever decide to do, including medicine. And I decided to then go listen to her, and she was absolutely right. It was the right thing to do. So I think asking for help and listening to more experienced people, it's extremely important. Is that you have to know what the expectations are of any job of patients, and then you have to work hard to help your fellow colleagues, because only as a team do everybody move up, I think. And I think another thing that I have learned is that in that network, it's like a team, like a sports team. It's not only your friends to win, but you need a great coach. You also need a team manager. So you need a good mentor that you respect, that you have common interest in, name forward for the next step. And now that I'm in a position where I can help other women, that's what I like to do. I like to work with medical students in projects, work with interns, looking over their projects, etc. So I think having a broad network, it's important.
Yes, I mean, we definitely want to encourage everybody listening. The solution is all of the above. You want to have as many mentors and proactively reach out to mentors. And as a mentor, some of my greatest accomplishments in my career in Wall Street were mentoring young women and watching them rise and then putting them into positions of power. So mentors want to help, but you have to seek out those mentors in addition to your other connections. So our next panelist is Liz Nganzi. I pronounced it right. Liz is an entrepreneur, educator, and speaker who consults to nonprofits worldwide on their fundraising and branding efforts.
Thank you. And I just want to mention the importance of networking together. Amy, Jeanette, and I is the president to engage.
Yes.
So my story starts about probably 10,000 miles away from here. I was born in Uganda, where I lived until I was 4, and my mother, who was an amazing, amazing woman, and really, I'd say the person who's been with me throughout, was transferred to the U.S. as a diplomat. And so we moved to the U.S., and then I started attending the United Nations International School, where I spent the next 13 years. And that was a really, really critical experience for me because it exposed me to various cultures, it opened my eyes up to the possibilities, and helped me to really understand people. One of the most poignant experiences I had growing up was going to Denmark when I was 10 with my mother to the Second International Women's Conference, which engaged about thousands. And that's really where my activism, I guess, without knowing it, and it's really when I realized the importance of working towards efforts to improve women's rights around the world. And so that was kind of something that I really. So when I graduated from the United Nations International School, I was one of those people who was the art student. I was the art, how was fine arts, but after about a semester or so, I realized that probably wasn't my calling. And ironically, the program that I found that really made sense for me was information systems, which you go from art to computers. It doesn't make sense, but in my brain it works. And so I'm really glad that I was able to pursue that as my career, because technology is so important in life today. And so when I graduated from college in 1992, when most people couldn't get jobs, I had 5 offers, and I subsequently moved to Massachusetts and worked for a couple of technology companies. The first of which was imploded, and then anyway, I have kind of this crazy karma with companies that go under, but anyway, because the last corporate American company I worked for was Arthur Andersen. Anyway, when I worked in marketing primarily, and so if you think about that, what I currently do right now, it's really working with nonprofits on their branding. That's important to note is that, while you might have a winding path, if you always kind of leverage the skill sets and the network along the way, you can always do whatever you want to do. But also what's really important is that, I've also started working with a lot of women's organizations, women's health organizations, and help them. And that really back in, when I was 10. And so I'm really grateful for all of the women I've had in my life, all the strong women who've always inspired me and always taught me. One of the things my mother taught me is that you should never give up. You should always be willing to just put yourself out there. And so when I started my business in 2001, it was during a difficult economy. But the thing is, I knew I had to just keep going. And then everything was going great, all the opportunities were working together, and then in 2009, literally lost 60% of my business and had to reinvent. And so what I've found is that no matter what happens as a woman, you have to just keep going. Don't let obstacles stop you, and always leverage all the networks you have. And so I'm very grateful for all the women's organizations and individuals who have supported me. And I thank you, Amy, for introducing me to my new girlfriends here.
That's right. And it's so important as strong women too that we help other young women, everybody listening, and then get them all into positions of control and of power. And I think the other thing that we're hearing again and again, with the exception of Jeanette, is that you don't necessarily have to know where your path is going to lead you. that people try all different types of careers, myself too. You know, I'm running a women's organization, writing a book, whereas I started in Wall Street, and if you had asked me in high school or even college what I wanted to be, I would have had no idea. So you don't have to think of yourself as needing to know tomorrow where you're going to be, but you want to be thoughtful of the approach and always be building your networks. And so our last panelist, Rose, is a little bit of a different angle. I asked Rose to come speak to us about what a successful women's organization looks like within a corporation, because a lot of the people watching today are small or medium. And it's very important within these organizations that we all help each other out. So a little bit at Standard & Poor's, McGraw-Hill, diversity, inclusion, engagement, and recognition, all good things. So Rose.
Yes, thank you, Amy, and thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm happy to lend a different perspective to the discussion about career pathing and mentoring. And just by way of background, WINS is the organization that Amy asked me to speak about, and it stands for Women's Initiative for Networking and Success. And I'm very biased, but I think we are a terrific role model for other organizations on empowering women, inspiring women, and I'd like to just share a few highlights of how we're organized. And a very special hello, by the way, to my WINS colleagues, wherever you are viewing or calling from. I'm very proud to represent WINS and talk on your behalf. And the WINS organization at McGraw-Hill is our largest and oldest employee resource group. And what's interesting is it's pretty much 99% volunteer run. There are only a few employees who have it as part of their official job description. So the fact we're large, we have endured, we are successful, we're a very powerful force within the McGraw-Hill companies speaks so wonderfully to our incredible volunteers and leaders. We have about 5,000 members around the world across 25 chapters, and those chapters are, or regional networks, are in North America, Europe, Latin America, and Asia. And we have a global 21-person board that governs all the activities of these networks around the world. And one of our most important jobs, or many, but one of them is to establish an annual theme. And that is the theme or the strategy that governs all of the activities of the networks each year. And most importantly, this theme is not just something we create out of a hat, excuse me, but it is one that aligns with our leadership strategy and the actual business drivers and directives of the McGraw-Hill companies. And that's how we get a seat at the table. If we were just a group that got together for women to chat and just network, it would not be a very compelling selling proposition for our executives to buy. So the fact we align with our leadership strategy and our business strategy is very powerful. The board also provides mentoring and support so that each of these networks around the world are as successful as they can be. And then at the local level, each network has its own board or committee, and their job is to help us meet that overall strategy for the year, but very importantly, meet the needs of the local members who are the employees at those locations. So in a year, WINS organization runs about 200 to 300 workshops and events, and approximately 7,000 employees from around the world attend our workshops and events. So if you do the math, I mean, obviously we have about 5,000 members. We have repeat customers and repeat attendees to all of our events. The quality is very, very high, and we really endeavor to bring in very high quality speakers as well. So WINS provides leadership and professional development, and that happens not only in the classes and the training and the workshops themselves, but also in the very running of the board, the running of the committee, and actually implementing the events provides terrific leadership development opportunities for all of our women. WINS also provides significant networking, and it's a natural byproduct. It's not even that we have to run an event that is a networking event. Just the very coaching and the training and the professional development sessions we run, there's natural networking that occurs before, during, and after the events. We also provide mentoring, and that's both on a formal and informal basis. And if we had more time, Amy, I would love to talk more about the mentoring program at McGraw-Hill. It really is a best-in-class program where we have probably 5,000 people around the world who have been matched in a very structured, formal program, so we're very, very proud of that. Also, WINS provides a very strong sense of community and support, and I'd like to refer back, Amy, you talked about the sense of connection that the networking can offer, and certainly WINS does that very, very persuasively. And at the end of the day, I like to think that what we do in WINS provides a sense of home, so this community, this place to be other than at your desk, where when you come, you'll be inspired, empowered, you will learn, you will grow. So in the spirit of National Girlfriend Networking Day, I'd like to just say, if you don't have a network right now where you are, in your corporation or your company, start one. Start small, solicit volunteers, definitely don't try to do it alone, and be fierce about focus. Really focus, start small, don't try to do a lot of events, and don't try to do a lot of sessions or a lot of networking activities. Be very, very focused, and also align with your company's business strategy. That really is the ticket. That's the strongest selling point to be a force within the organization. So I'll part with this, or end with this quote, and those of you in WINS have heard me mention this before. It's a very famous Madeleine Albright quote, and I love it, and it speaks so deeply to what we are about today. There's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women.
Yes.
So my parting remark is be sure to not be one of those women.
Thank you very much, Rose. We're about to get to our last speaker, and so I want, before we get to Emily, I'd like to encourage everybody who's listening, if you have questions or comments, either tweet them using hashtag NGNDay or put them in the live chat, and then we will be asking questions next. So Emily is one of our many success stories for the new agenda. A big part of what we're doing as we're talking about is getting more women into leadership and empowering young women. We also have college chapters around the country. And Emily is about to attend her sophomore year at Cedar Crest College. And when we launched the Mentor Exchange, which we'll talk about as I close, we had a formal grouping of pioneer mentors and mentees. Gretchen was also a pioneer mentor. But Emily was one of our pioneer mentees, and I asked her to come speak today about how that changed her career path in her life, just having a mentor in her life. So all you women who are out there can hear how you can actually help somebody very easily without a lot of work.
Well, I've been introduced to the Mentor Exchange by Whitney, who's in Illinois right now, and I want to thank her for that. I love the Mentor Exchange because of the ability to connect with women that inspire me to set a higher standard for myself. And my mentor is Miss Jedediah Avila, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I've always known I want to do something. Like, I started with teacher when I was 5, and then librarian at age 13, and then writer at age 14. But now with Ms. Jedediah's help and the whole politics bug that I got in 2008, I've decided that with her help, I will become a conservative contributor at Fox News. That's what I want to do with my life. It's very specific, and I know that, but that's what I want to do. And just go on TV, write columns. Just something to do with that. I'm very politically active. I have a Twitter account, I have Facebook, and I have about 437 followers on Twitter, and it's been a great ride for me. I love politics, and this is what I want to do. And Ms. Jedediah and I are very close, and I have to say I really love having someone who's in that field and being able just to email her whatever I want, probably at 1 a.m. She's still up. And it's just great to talk to a woman who's climbing the ladder of success and just get advice. It's wonderful. I just really love Miss Jedediah, where I think she's actually getting me on Hannity tonight. I get to go see Hannity. I'm very excited about that. And I just think that the Mentor Exchange is a great program for young women such as myself. You just connect with someone who's in your field, and you get to do stuff, you get to do things with them, and you get great advice.
And great advice, and I have to just tell a brief story that I was involved in a mentoring program at Morgan Stanley, and the first mentee I had one day took me off the desk, and this was a non-traditional question, but she looked at me and she said, I haven't told anybody this, but I'm pregnant, and what do I do? And so I just bring this up in the concept that being somebody's mentor and being their advisor, life is never as we expect it to be. And it's such an important role that we as women in the workplace in various careers can help younger women to bring them up the career field. So I'm so glad that not everybody has a success story like you do and gets to go on Hannity, but I'm glad it's all worked out. So I'm going to ask some questions now, and whoever wants to raise their hand and kind of chime in and pick to answer. The first is, what is the best way to seek out mentors, mentees for women who work for themselves in a field that isn't necessarily, quote, traditional? Anybody want to pick that up?
I'll pick it up. Well, I'm one of those people, I'm on Twitter like you are, and I stalk people on Twitter actually. And what I mean by that is that, you know, if I find someone who's interesting, someone who's doing work that appeals to me, I'll follow them on Twitter and I'll make a connection with them. And so I think that for those of you who are trying to connect with folks who aren't necessarily within your own network, Twitter or the various social media are really great places to connect. Believe it or not, you have no idea who's going to follow you back, respond to you, and engage with you. But I think the point is you just have to be bold about it. Another way is my intern Dana, who you can't see, but she's over there. Literally just she's interning with me over the summer. Literally just called me and said, you know, I'd love to intern with you. Can you mentor me? And that's what this experience is all about. So it's again you have to be bold. Find out who you want to work with and just be bold about contacting them.
Stalk them on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think also if you start going to lectures or events or join societies that are interested in your field, then you go at the end, introduce yourself, you know, be out there, have your card, say this is what I can do, you know, how can I help? And then volunteer. You know, it might be free time, but if you volunteer a couple of hours on a weekend, etc., you get to meet more people. And then maybe something will come out of that.
I was just going to say that when I was in college or thinking about getting into TV, the idea of writing Diane Sawyer a letter, because we didn't have email back then, to say, hey, would you ever consider letting me come to watch you do a show? Or I would have never done that, because even though I had a lot of courage and felt good about myself and self-confidence, I would think, why would you pay attention to me? And now that I'm in a role like that, I'm telling you, it works.
It works.
If somebody emails me or writes me a letter or whatever it is, I will respond. And in most cases, they get on the phone with me and they come to visit. And so just do it. Just take whatever,
Absolutely.
you know, just take a deep breath if you're nervous about it, but make the phone call, send the email, write a letter. In most cases, people at all different levels will respond to you.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, so the next question, what benefits can come from networking across professions and women of varying levels of leadership and experience? How can we learn from all types of women?
I'll take that. I mean, clearly, it's different perspectives. It's perspectives that are not perhaps found within your field or within your job. I know at the McGraw-Hill Companies in our formal mentoring program, we actually purposely match people across businesses, across locations, and really don't look to match people within, so that they do gain a wider perspective on whatever business issues, problems, or developmental areas they want to pursue. So it's really that diverse perspective that would be vital for professional growth.
I think the other thing is that your own expertise alone, it's not going to create something. You have to collaborate with different people. So like in medicine, even though I'm the radiologist, I work with the orthopedic surgeon who's working with the oncologist. It's a team effort at the end. So you bring a little piece of expertise to the bigger picture.
Great. Let's get one more. What is your advice for older women looking to network, beef up current career, or even changing careers, given that we are in an ageist society? Well, I'm going to just say it's never too late to reinvent yourself. I left Wall Street in 2006 to mostly spend time with my kids. Never thought that I would get involved in women's advocacy. It was not even on my radar screen. And then what happened to Hillary Clinton, I couldn't even stand watching. It was such an awakening for me on how much sexism there was in this country and to women across the country. And so we started a women's organization, which is something I would never have seen myself in. But I think when you show up consistently day in, day out and do something, and the new agenda has survived and thrived, it's about showing up each day and being consistent. And I have an old rule that I got from my boss at Morgan Stanley, who was president of Morgan Stanley, John Mack. Whenever somebody emails, calls, reaches out to you, return it same day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, follow
If you
through.
show up to a meeting, you show up on time, otherwise you're making a statement about not. And those words of just consistency, of stability, of showing up each day, and whatever you do, regardless of your age, it's never too late to start. Does anyone have anything to add?
Amy, I would just also add, I think the importance, and it's already been mentioned, of attending conferences and events and doing and participating in activities within your field of interest, not only to perhaps gain mentors, and a mentor could be gotten at any age, so it's not something that's connected to someone's chronological age, but just really be in the place where those connections are being made, and also to learn the language. If you feel out of touch, if you've been out of your field for a while for whatever reason, or entering a new field, be part of those associations and conferences and business events that will really drive within you the language, the tools. What are people talking about? What are the topics? What are the hot issues? And make sure you stay current on those, and certainly current business conferences can accomplish that.
Yep.
Great. Well, we want to wrap it up now because the primary reason we're having all these events is so you can network with women where you are today at your event. Start it that way. If you're watching us online and you need somebody to mentor or a mentee, you can go to thementorexchange.org. You can also find the link to it on our homepage. And the Mentor Exchange is meant to be something with a short-term help. It's 1 hour of time is all that's required for a specific task in your career field. And there's also a forum there to chat with other women, young women in your career field, because one of the things we're talking about today is the importance of building your connections with your peer group and women your own age. And I'd like you all, before you leave, to write June 4th, 2013 on your calendar. We're going to be reconvening next year. We're going to be looking to double or triple or quadruple the size of this year after year. And I would encourage you all also, our website is thenewagenda.net. If you're not a member, please join. We really need all your support. We're all volunteer, but we have costs during the year, and this is the one time we look to raise money during the year to fund the important work we do to improve the lives of women and girls. And we're going to look to get as much women leadership and build a pipeline in every career field. So thank you so much to our panelists for coming over today, and to our pioneer mentee. And thank you so much for participating in making herstory with us this year as we launch our first National Girlfriends Networking Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, girlfriend.